Hello and welcome to yet another episode of A Day in Film. Back to the short form content, at least for a little bit, just to see what you guys think. I am the Patnator here, as always, joined by my occasional co-star or co-guest host thing, Mish. Say hello, Mish.
Hi.
Yeah, so as always, it's unscripted, and we're just gonna spill all of our thoughts on whatever movie it may be. And today, that movie just so happens to be Tim Burton's very own Beetlejuice. I watched this in preparation for the new one, Beetlejuice, and man, I'm pretty happy with this movie. What did you think about this movie, Mish?
I'm pretty happy too. Overall, it's just a really great time, and I didn't feel like I had to focus too hard to
Hmm.
enjoy it and really understand everything, and it looked great. It's just such a good movie.
So just to go over the plot of Beetlejuice, if you haven't seen it. Beetlejuice follows a recently deceased couple trying to kick another family who just moved into their house out of the house so they could peacefully live forever in their weird Victorian mansion and like I don't even know where the movie's set, like Maryland or something.
Mhm.
Or like
I was
the
thinking
out
it was like Maine.
yeah, it's like somewhere near New York, like the
Yeah,
outskirts of New
northern
York or
New York.
something. Yeah. I and that actually brings me to my first point. The visual style of this film is like stupendous. I love
Mhm.
the setting of this film. A very rural town. I know a lot of it is set inside the house or in the underworld or afterlife or whatever you want to call it. But I think the rolling green hills, whenever you do get a glimpse outside, it really does make it feel even more isolated and not more hopeless, but just more isolated.
Mhm.
I can't help but really enjoy it. What do
Right.
you think about the setting and just the general
Uh,
visual style?
the visual reminded me of Edward Scissorhands, mostly
Hmm.
the intro scene, how they're
Hmm.
kind of just going through the town. And I love that movie. I've loved it my whole life. So when I saw that, I just suspected that I was going to love this movie as well.
I want to say Edward Scissorhands is also Tim Burton, if I'm
I'm pretty
correct.
sure.
And I mean, that's one of the things that that didn't surprise me about the movie, but that kind of surprised me about the movie. Um, Tim Burton, for the longest time, I had this conception of him, or conception.
Sure.
I had this idea of him that he wasn't very stylistically talented. And I only really thought that because for the longest time it was Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas and not Henry Selick's Nightmare Before Christmas. And for that reason, I couldn't help but feel that Tim Burton was trying to steal like swagger from Henry Selick, and to finally see a Tim Burton movie where he's at like full force,
Mhm.
going in whatever zany direction he wants to go in. It shows how talented this guy is,
Mhm.
especially in the more zany, wacky departments of filmmaking.
Um, who was your favorite character from this movie?
I'd say my favorite character. It's tough. I really like Winona Ryder's character, but
Mhm.
I'd probably say it was uh the the dead couple's or the dead
Right.
wife character. I would
I'm
say is
kind of in
my
the
favorite.
I'm in the same boat. I like Winona Ryder's, and I also like the one you said. But I think Lydia is just better. Winona Ryder's character,
Hmm.
personally.
And kind of briefly speaking on the deceased couple, I think the dynamic and role that they play in the movie is really sweet. Having them very clearly want a child and then die before they can have one, and then
Mhm.
finding Winona Ryder and almost treating her like a surrogate daughter
Right.
is a pretty cool plot point, and it feels really natural. And you can see how quickly they kind of fall in love with this girl just because they can see them, you know, because they're
Right.
not because they're not invisible to her.
Mhm.
It's surprisingly sweet for the kind of movie you'd think Beetlejuice would be.
Getting more into the actual Beetlejuice character,
Hmm.
Michael Keaton is so good in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. The craziest thing about this is that just to briefly speak on the new one, not that I've seen it yet, but like and this might even be the same for the original, but all of the marketing for Beetlejuice has been around uh, uh, his character,
Mhm.
Beetlejuice, you know, and,
Right.
and watching this movie and realizing that he only has like maybe 25 or 30 minutes of screen time total, and this
Mhm.
whole movie is crazy
Right.
because he's such an important part. Like the movie's literally named after him, and he has like barely any screen time in the grand scheme of things, and it just shows how strong of an actor uh what's his name?
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, it just shows how strong of an actor Michael Keaton is, and how much he's able to carry this role. I,
Mhm.
I I love how much of a little freak and like disgusting pervert Beetlejuice is. You know, it's like throughout the entire film he's portrayed as one, and I think it's a really not cute but kind of silly, just like weird idea that works surprisingly well for the character.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think of the score in this movie, Danny Elfman's score?
It's great. There's two songs that I don't know the name of. They're really catchy, and I was definitely dancing along to it.
What scenes do they happen in?
The scene at dinner where they're kind of like forced to dance,
Uh
and
huh.
then the ending scene where Lydia gets a on her math test and they celebrate.
Absolutely. Those two scenes especially. Um, this is a very light-hearted, haunting movie.
Mhm.
The and those scenes really contribute to the lighthearted feel, and obviously the
Right.
comedy. You know, there's plenty of comedy, and Beetlejuice himself is a very funny character. But those scenes where they're just dancing or a very fun song is playing as everyone else is having a good time, it kind of pulls you back and makes you realize like, hey, you know, sure they're being haunted, and sure there's like an evil demon who's trying to kill them, but like they're having a good time with it, you know.
Yeah,
And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this movie is like rated PG. I want to
I think
say,
so.
even though Beetlejuice says like fuck 8 times in this movie.
Mhm.
But hey, I mean, all the more credit to Tim Burton for sneaking it past the censors because that cannot be easy. Uh, what'd you think of the? What'd you think about like the overall themes in this movie about like the afterlife and stuff?
I thought it was really interesting how they kind of don't really realize they're dead, and then they have to figure it out by reading a handbook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was just super interesting because I've always been interested in the afterlife, and
Mm-hmm.
in my own mind, I don't exactly know how I imagine it would be.
Wow.
So every time I see like a different take on it, it's
Mm.
really intriguing.
Very profound. You're just like Winona Ryder's character.
Sure.
Oh, speaking of, that scene where she's writing her unaliving note,
Right?
and she's like scribbling out words to make it sound more like impactful, like
Like more
as I
gothic.
yeah, she's like as I plummet to my death instead of like as I fall from the window to my death. It's like it's little moments of like I guess I don't know if you'd call it dark humor or just like black humor, but I think it works pretty well, and it adds a lot of character to this movie because
Mhm.
it'd be really easy to make almost a generic, uh, like almost Ghostbusters esque comedy out of this movie.
I do wish they brought up that um unaliving note afterwards because she kind of just leaves it in the basement or the attic.
In her room.
No, she takes it down to the ghost, right?
No,
And
she
she puts
doesn't.
it. She does. She carries it down to show them.
No, she doesn't.
She definitely does, but it's fine.
Well, I don't think they really needed to bring it up again. I think it was almost just like a funny bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you think this movie was scary at all?
There was a couple scenes like when they try to leave the house and it would take them to this different planet almost.
To
Those
Saturn,
scenes,
I think it
right?
was.
Those scenes definitely got my heart racing, as well as when Beetlejuice turns into that snake kind of thing and haunts the family. That's really freaky looking.
Yeah, the movie does have a lot of surprisingly scary moments in it.
Mhm.
Not scary, but just like off-putting scenes in it. Uh, one set piece that comes back a couple times that comes to mind is the waiting room, like the reception room,
Uh-huh.
and especially that guy with the very little head.
Mhm.
who got like voodoo cursed or whatever. It's just like little design things like that are like very subtly effective in horror. Not in horror,
Right.
but just like in general like atmosphere for the film. It's hard
Mhm.
not to look at that and go like, huh, that'd be like really scary to see in person if it was real.
Right.
And not only that, but like they're I'm thinking to the scene where they're talking to their like case not case manager, but
They're like
their
afterlife guide.
yeah, their afterlife guide, and they're like, okay, what do you think about these faces? And they like stretch and contort their faces to scary degrees, and before you actually see the final result, it's a claymation stop motion like animation of them doing it. I
Right.
think it looks really good. Like stylistically, it's spot on.
Mhm.
And I couldn't help but just kind of love the movie for little moments like that. And there are a lot of moments of little visual, just like almost blink and you'll miss it frames, or not frames, but just set pieces.
Right.
Um, Another
I
one that's
really
coming. Yeah, go ahead.
I really do like that cartoony style. That
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, just a bit that's coming to my mind is when they're walking through the hallway, and the hallway's all like bent and contorted out of shape, and
Mhm.
it's really blue. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
It looks really good. Like
it
I don't know
does.
why it looks so good, but it just looks great. Uh, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that really stood out to you in this movie?
I mean, I definitely understand why people consider this movie a classic.
Absolutely. You know this movie is. I mean, your parents probably love it, and I mean I can't blame them.
Mhm.
This movie it's kind of a hard not to love movie. It's so it's so unique, and it's such a kooky concept, and it's
Right.
done so well. This movie is done incredibly well for the kind of story that it is. And it's pretty funny too.
It is,
There are
yeah.
a couple lines and a couple moments in this movie that genuinely made me do a hearty like haha.
Mhm.
But I mean other than that, forgive me. I don't think I have much else to say.
Me neither.
I gave Beetlejuice an 8 out of 10.
And I also gave Beetlejuice an 8 out of 10.
I mean, this is a movie that whether or not you're watching the new one in theaters, I mean, I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Right.
It's definitely impactful on not only the rest of Tim Burton's works, but also the comedic horror genre. Not
Mhm.
horror, but just like comedic uh spook genre, I guess.
Sure.
Um, it's all these little sight gags and things like that have been very impactful, and I think overall it's made a very good impression on the on the medium of film, I guess.
Definite.
But I mean, with that all out of the way, I think we're done.
Mhm.
I hope you enjoyed our very loose ramblings about Beetlejuice. This may or may not be the second time we're recording.
Mhm.
Um, I am very tired, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Uh, Please like and subscribe, or do both. You know, do whatever you want. And yeah, that's all we have to say. And we will
We'll
see you
see you
in
in
the
the
theaters.
theaters.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.